I guess I'm not going anywhere, am I? You're such a good guard dog.
The morning began the way mornings often do, quiet, familiar, unremarkable in the best possible way. Soft sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, warming the walls with a pale golden glow. Dust floated gently in the air, slow and lazy, as if the house itself hadn't fully woken yet. Somewhere in the kitchen, a coffee machine hummed softly, filling the space with a comforting, steady sound. The woman stood near the counter, one hand wrapped around a mug, the other resting naturally against her belly. She smiled without realizing it. Pregnancy had changed the way mornings felt. Slower. Heavier in the body, but warmer in the heart. Outside, the neighborhood was already stirring. A car passed. A distant door closed. Life moved forward at its usual pace. Inside the house, everything felt safe. She took a small sip of coffee, then glanced toward the clock on the wall. Running a little late. Not enough to panic. Just enough to hurry. She set the mug down carefully, slipped into her shoes, and reached for her coat hanging by the door. The fabric felt cool in her hands. Familiar. Routine. Okay, she murmured to herself, almost amused. Time to go. Behind her, the dog lifted his head. He had been lying near the window, stretched out in a patch of sunlight. His breathing was slow, steady. Calm. He wasn't old, but he carried a quiet maturity, the kind that comes from paying attention to the world in small, thoughtful ways. His ears twitched. Not at a sound. Not at movement. At something deeper. He rose smoothly, without urgency, and walked toward the front door. His paws made soft taps against the wooden floor, unhurried, deliberate. The woman noticed him only when he stepped into her path. She stopped. "Oh," she said quietly, smiling down at him. "Excuse me." She shifted slightly to the side, expecting him to move. He didn't. Instead, he sat. Right in front of the door. Perfectly centered. His posture was calm but alert. Back straight. Head lifted. Eyes focused not on the door, but on her. She laughed softly under her breath. "You're in the way," she said gently. No response. No tail wag. No playful tilt of the head. Just stillness. She tried again, stepping around him, fingers brushing the doorknob. The dog leaned forward. Not forcefully. Not aggressively. He simply pressed his nose against her leg, warm, steady, grounding. She froze. The house felt quieter all at once. Not empty. Just attentive. She looked down at him more closely now. His eyes were calm, but there was something else there, focus. As if he were holding on to a thought. Or listening to something far away that hadn't yet reached her. "Hey," she whispered. "What is it?" The dog didn't whine. Didn't bark. He just stayed. Her smile softened into curiosity. This wasn't misbehavior. He wasn't anxious. It felt intentional. She gently removed her hand from the door and took a small step back. The dog relaxed a fraction, just enough for her to notice. Interesting. She exhaled slowly. "Okay," she said, mostly to herself. "Okay." She walked back toward the living room and sat down on the couch. The cushions dipped beneath her weight, familiar and supportive. She rested both hands on her belly now, thumbs brushing small, unconscious circles. The dog followed. He lay down at her feet, close enough that she could feel his warmth through her socks. His body angled toward her. His eyes never left her face. Minutes passed. The clock ticked. Her phone buzzed softly with a notification. She ignored it. Instead, she listened. To her breathing. To the quiet hum of the house. To the strange sense that something gentle but important was unfolding. She shifted slightly, and paused. A subtle sensation rippled through her body. Not pain. Not fear. Just different. She frowned, thoughtful. The dog's ears perked instantly. He lifted his head and placed it gently against her knee. That was when her heart skipped, not from panic, but from recognition. "Oh," she whispered. The warmth in her chest deepened, spreading slowly, deliberately. She hadn't planned to stay home this morning. She had errands. Appointments. A schedule. But suddenly, none of that mattered. The dog let out a quiet breath, almost like a sigh, and settled closer. As if to say, "You listened." She leaned back against the couch, eyes closing for just a moment, letting herself feel everything at once. The stillness. The connection. The quiet knowing. She didn't understand it yet. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't coincidence. And the meaning behind the dog's calm insistence had only just begun to reveal itself. The house remained still, but something had shifted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the kind of change you only notice when you stop rushing long enough to feel it. The woman sat quietly on the couch, hands folded over her belly, breathing slow and steady. The dog stayed close, his body curved protectively at her feet, his chin resting lightly against her leg. Neither of them moved. Outside, a bird called once, then went silent again. She opened her eyes and looked down at him. He wasn't staring now. Not watching her face the way he had before. Instead, his gaze drifted between her belly and the space around them, ears twitching occasionally as if he were tracking something invisible, something subtle. "You're acting strange today," she whispered. Her voice carried no concern. Only curiosity, and a quiet affection. The dog didn't respond, but his tail gave a single, slow sweep against the floor. Not excitement. Reassurance. She shifted her weight slightly, adjusting how she sat. A faint pressure rolled through her body, gentle, unfamiliar, but not uncomfortable. She paused. Waited. It passed. Her breathing slowed again, but her attention sharpened. Pregnancy had taught her to listen to her body in ways she never had before. Still, this felt new. Different. She looked at the clock. Only a few minutes had gone by since she was supposed to leave. Funny how time changes when you stop fighting it. The dog lifted his head again, eyes soft but focused. He stood and took a small step closer, placing one paw lightly on her foot. Just one. She felt the warmth through her sock and smiled. "That's okay," she murmured. "I'm right here." The dog seemed to relax at those words, easing back down with a slow exhale. His breathing synced with hers, calm, steady, grounded. She leaned back against the couch and closed her eyes again. Memories drifted in. The first day she brought him home. How he followed her from room to room for weeks. How he always seemed to know when she needed company, and when she needed space. He'd never been loud. Never demanding. Just present. Her hand moved instinctively, resting against the curve of her belly. She felt a flutter, soft, almost like a whisper from the inside. She smiled. "Did you feel that?" she whispered to the dog, even though she knew he couldn't answer. But he lifted his head instantly. His ears perked. His body leaned forward. And then, something unexpected happened. He gently pressed his forehead against her belly. Not pushing. Not heavy. Just there. Her breath caught. The warmth in her chest bloomed into something deeper, something emotional, almost overwhelming in its tenderness. "Oh," she breathed. She stayed perfectly still, afraid to break the moment. The dog didn't move either. It felt like time itself had slowed, holding them in a quiet bubble of understanding. Another sensation followed. Slightly stronger this time. Still not painful. Just insistent. Her expression shifted from wonder to realization. "Okay," she whispered softly. "Okay, I hear you." Whether she meant the dog, or her body, she wasn't sure. The dog pulled back just enough to look up at her face. His eyes were calm, but there was something unmistakable there now. Certainty. He wasn't guessing. He wasn't reacting. He knew. She felt it deep in her bones. Her phone buzzed again, someone checking in, probably wondering where she was. She didn't reach for it. Instead, she placed both feet firmly on the floor and slowly stood. The dog rose with her, staying close, his shoulder brushing her leg as if guiding her. She took a step. Paused. Another wave rolled through her body. She exhaled slowly through her nose, grounding herself, just as she'd practiced. The dog remained steady at her side, unmoving, unshaken. "Good boy," she whispered, resting a hand briefly on his head. His tail moved once. That was all. She walked toward the window and looked outside. The day looked the same as it had before, bright, ordinary, inviting. But she felt different now. Aware. Attuned. She placed one hand on the window frame, the other on her belly, and stood quietly until the sensation passed again. When she turned back around, the dog was watching her closely, eyes tracking every small movement. Not anxious. Not afraid. Ready. Her heart swelled. "You didn't want me to leave," she said softly. Not as a question. The dog stepped forward and sat. Right there. Between her and the door. Her eyes filled not with fear, but with emotion so warm it surprised her. Gratitude. Trust. Love. She knelt slowly, carefully, bringing herself down to his level. She wrapped her arms loosely around his neck and rested her forehead against his. "Thank you," she whispered. He stayed perfectly still, accepting the embrace with quiet dignity. In that moment, she didn't need answers. Didn't need certainty. She only needed to listen. And the dog had already done that for her. The house seemed to breathe with them now. Every sound felt softer, more intentional. The faint hum of the refrigerator. The distant rustle of leaves outside. Even the ticking clock sounded slower, as if it, too, had decided to wait. The woman eased herself back onto the couch, careful and deliberate. The dog followed, settling beside her this time instead of at her feet. His shoulder pressed gently against her leg, solid and reassuring. She rested her head against the back cushion and closed her eyes. For the first time that morning, she allowed herself to truly listen. Not to noise, but to sensation. A gentle tightening moved through her body again. Slightly stronger than before, but still calm. Still manageable. She breathed through it the way she'd practiced, slow inhale, longer exhale. When it passed, she let out a quiet laugh. "Okay," she whispered. "That's definitely something." The dog lifted his head at the sound of her voice. His ears tilted forward, not sharply, just enough to show attention. His eyes searched her face, calm and observant. She turned her head toward him. "You knew, didn't you?" Her voice held wonder, not disbelief. He didn't move, but something in his stillness felt like an answer. She reached out and scratched gently behind his ear. His eyes softened, lids lowering slightly. He leaned into her touch, grounding her even more in the moment. Another wave followed soon after. This one lingered. She shifted her position, instinctively adjusting her posture. Her breathing stayed controlled, but her focus sharpened. This wasn't random anymore. This was a pattern. She opened her eyes and looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time. The family photos on the wall. The folded blanket on the chair. The small pair of baby shoes sitting near the shelf, still untouched, waiting. Her throat tightened. Not from fear. From emotion. "This wasn't supposed to happen today," she said softly, almost to the room itself. The dog's head turned toward her belly again. His body angled closer, as if forming a quiet barrier between her and everything else. She felt another gentle movement inside her, followed by a response from her own body. Her heart began to beat a little faster. Not racing. Just awake. She reached for her phone this time, lifting it slowly. Her fingers hovered over the screen. She thought about calling someone, her partner, maybe. Or her sister. She hesitated. The dog shifted slightly, placing his paw on her thigh again. Not urgent. Not demanding. Just grounding. She exhaled. "Okay," she whispered. "One thing at a time." She set the phone down beside her instead of making the call. There would be time for that soon. Right now, she needed clarity. She stood again, moving slowly, listening carefully to every signal her body sent. The dog rose immediately, matching her pace, his body aligned with hers as if they were practicing the same rhythm. She walked a few steps across the living room. Stopped. Another wave. She placed one hand on the wall, the other on her belly, breathing through it. The dog stayed close, his presence steady, unwavering. When it passed, she laughed softly again, this time with a hint of awe. "Well," she said quietly. "That explains a lot." She looked down at him, and their eyes met. There it was again, that quiet certainty. He hadn't panicked. Hadn't reacted late. He had noticed something subtle before she had changes too small for urgency, too gentle for alarm. But not too small for him. "You were listening before I was," she murmured. The dog's tail moved once, slow, thoughtful. She felt a warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with hormones or biology. It was trust, the deep kind that doesn't ask for proof. She walked toward the door again, not to leave this time, but to check something. The dog stepped forward instinctively, then paused, watching her carefully. She stopped a few feet away. Another sensation rolled through her. Clear now. Unmistakable. She nodded to herself. "Yeah," she said softly. "Not going anywhere." She turned back toward the couch, already adjusting her plans in her mind. Appointments could wait. Errands could be rescheduled. This mattered more. The dog relaxed fully for the first time that morning, lying down with a contented sigh. She smiled down at him. "We're okay," she said gently. "Thanks to you." The room felt warmer somehow, fuller. And as she sat back down, breathing steady, heart open, she realized something important. She wasn't just observing the dog anymore. She was learning from him. And that quiet lesson was only beginning to unfold. The afternoon light had shifted. What had once been a soft morning glow now stretched longer across the floor, turning pale gold into warmer amber. Shadows moved slowly along the walls, unhurried, patient. Time no longer felt like something she was chasing. It felt like something she was being held by. The woman sat near the window now, a folded blanket pulled gently around her shoulders. The dog lay beside her, his body curved in a protective crescent, close enough that she could feel the steady rise and fall of his breathing. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. She watched the world outside through the glass, neighbors passing, a child riding a bike, leaves swaying lightly in the breeze. Everything looked ordinary. Yet she felt changed. Another gentle wave moved through her body. She welcomed it this time, breathing calmly, letting it pass without resistance. Her confidence surprised her. She glanced down at the dog. He was already watching her. Always watching. Not with worry. With awareness. "You're very serious about this," she whispered, a small smile tugging at her lips. His ears twitched at the sound of her voice, and his tail brushed softly against the floor once. He didn't move closer. He didn't need to. She reached out and rested her hand on his back, fingers sinking into warm fur. The contact grounded her instantly, like placing a hand on something solid after standing too long in shifting sand. Her breathing slowed. Her shoulders relaxed. Trust, she realized, wasn't a sudden decision. It was something that grew quietly, moment by moment, choice by choice. She thought back to the morning. How easily she could have brushed him aside. How close she had been to opening that door. The thought sent a shiver through her, not fear, just awareness. "I'm glad I stayed," she said softly. The dog's eyes closed for a brief second, as if the words themselves carried weight. Another sensation came, slightly stronger, lasting longer. She shifted her stance, placing both feet flat on the floor, grounding herself as she learned. The dog rose and stood in front of her, facing her directly now. Not blocking. Guiding. She followed his movement instinctively, standing with him, letting the moment pass as they breathed together. When it eased, she let out a slow breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "That's new," she murmured. She looked at the clock again. More time had passed. Enough to make the pattern undeniable. Enough to make a quiet decision settle firmly in her chest. She reached for her phone, and this time, she didn't hesitate. Her fingers moved calmly, deliberately, dialing a familiar number. The phone rang once, then twice. "Hey," she said when the call connected. Her voice was steady, warm. "I think today's the day." She listened for a moment, smiling softly at whatever was said on the other end. "I'm okay," she added gently. "Really? I'm not leaving the house." She glanced at the dog as she spoke, her smile deepening. "He wouldn't let me," she said quietly, affection woven into every word. She ended the call and set the phone down, heart full. The dog returned to her side, sitting close, his presence calm and reassuring. She rested her forehead briefly against his head. "Good instincts," she whispered. Outside, clouds drifted slowly across the sky, softening the light even more. The world seemed to slow in response to her choice. Another wave arrived soon after. She handled it with quiet confidence now, breathing through it, trusting her body the way she had learned to trust the dog. When it passed, she laughed softly, this time not from surprise, but from gratitude. "This is happening," she said aloud. The dog's tail swept the floor once, twice. Content. As the afternoon settled in, she realized something profound. The dog hadn't just kept her from leaving. He had given her space. Space to notice. Space to listen. Space to trust herself. And in that space, something beautiful was growing. Not just a new life, but a deeper connection, built on patience, intuition, and quiet love. The light outside softened even more as the day moved gently forward. Late afternoon settled in like a warm blanket, draping the house in muted gold and honeyed shadows. The sounds outside faded into a calm hush, replaced by the quiet presence of home. The woman sat at the kitchen table now, a glass of water resting between her hands. She took small, steady sips, listening to her body with a patience she hadn't known she possessed. The dog lay nearby, positioned where he could see both her and the doorway. Not guarding, just aware. Always aware. Another sensation passed through her, measured, rhythmic, unmistakable now. She closed her eyes and breathed through it, shoulders relaxed, jaw loose. When it eased, she smiled to herself. "It's definitely a pattern," she murmured. The dog lifted his head slightly, tail giving a slow, approving sweep. She chuckled quietly. "Yeah. I thought so." She glanced around the kitchen, the clean counters, the bowl of fruit, the soft glow of sunlight on the cabinets. Everything felt intimate, meaningful in a way that surprised her. This wasn't where she had imagined this moment. But it felt right. Another wave followed sooner this time. She stood slowly, placing one hand on the edge of the table, grounding herself. The dog rose immediately, stepping close, his shoulder pressing lightly against her leg. She leaned into the support without thinking. "Thank you," she whispered. The dog stayed steady, breathing slow, offering presence instead of urgency. The moment passed, leaving behind a gentle sense of clarity. She nodded to herself. "Okay," she said softly. "I'm calling again." She reached for her phone, scrolling calmly this time, not rushed, not uncertain. Her fingers moved with quiet confidence. When the call connected, she spoke in a low, even voice. "They're coming closer together," she said. No pain. Just consistent." She listened, nodding, absorbing reassurance on the other end. "I'm staying home for now," she added. "Yes. I feel safe here." She ended the call and set the phone down, exhaling slowly. The dog circled once and lay down near her feet again, content. She rested her hands on her belly and closed her eyes. Inside, there was movement, response, life preparing itself. Her heart swelled. She thought back to all the little moments she'd brushed off over the months, the way the dog would follow her more closely than before, how he'd sleep closer at night, how he'd sit quietly beside her when she felt tired. It all made sense now. "You've been paying attention longer than I have," she said softly. The dog's eyes opened briefly, meeting hers. There was no pride there. No expectation. Just quiet companionship. Another wave came, slightly stronger than the last. She breathed through it, counting softly in her head, grounding herself in the rhythm. When it passed, she laughed softly, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. "Wow," she whispered. The dog lifted his head again, ears alert but calm. She reached down and rested her palm against his chest, feeling the steady heartbeat beneath. Two hearts, steady, present. The kitchen clock ticked on. Time moved forward, but it no longer felt like pressure. It felt like progress. She realized then that the dog hadn't sensed danger. He had sensed change. A shift so gentle it could be missed, unless you were truly listening. And he had listened with his whole being. As evening crept closer, she felt ready emotionally, mentally, deeply. Ready to receive whatever came next. She looked down at the dog and smiled. "We're doing this together," she said softly. His tail moved once in reply. A promise, quietly kept. Evening arrived without ceremony. The sky outside shifted into softer blues and gentle gray, the sun slipping away as if it didn't want to disturb the calm inside the house. Lamps clicked on one by one, casting warm pools of light across familiar rooms. The woman stood near the living room window, hands resting low on her belly, breathing slowly. Deep inhale, long exhale. The dog stayed close, his body angled toward her, eyes calm but attentive. He moved when she moved. Paused when she paused. A quiet partnership. Another wave came, stronger this time. Not overwhelming, but clear. She closed her eyes and leaned slightly forward, letting her breath guide her through it. The dog stepped closer, pressing gently against her leg, offering balance without force. She welcomed the contact. When the sensation eased, she opened her eyes, a soft laugh escaping her lips, half disbelief, half awe. "Okay," she whispered. That one was different. The dog lifted his head, ears tilting forward, as if acknowledging the shift. She walked slowly toward the couch and sat down, letting her body settle. The dog lay beside her again, close enough that their warmth blended together. She looked around the room. Everything felt sharper now. More vivid. The soft glow of the lamp. The texture of the couch fabric beneath her fingers. The steady, grounding presence beside her. Another wave followed sooner than expected. She inhaled slowly, exhaled even slower. Her face tightened just a little, not from fear, but from focus. From attention. When it passed, she nodded to herself. "That's closer," she murmured. She reached for her phone and checked the time. Evening. This wasn't speculation anymore. It was understanding. She typed a short message, her fingers steady. "It's progressing. I'm calm. I'm staying put." She set the phone aside and leaned back, eyes drifting to the ceiling. The dog shifted slightly, placing his head across her foot. The simple weight of it felt reassuring, anchoring. "You knew before I did," she said softly. "Didn't you?" The dog's tail moved once in response. Not excited. Certain. Another wave arrived, longer this time. She breathed through it, counting quietly, staying present. When it passed, she felt something settle inside her. Acceptance. This was no longer a question of if. It was a matter of when. She felt calm about it, surprisingly calm. The kind of calm that comes when you stop resisting and start trusting. She reached down and ran her fingers slowly through the dog's fur. "Thank you for slowing me down," she whispered. Outside, the world continued as usual. Cars passed. Lights flickered on in nearby homes. Life moved forward. Inside, everything felt purposeful. Another sensation came, then faded. She adjusted her position again, breathing steadily, fully aware now of the rhythm forming. The dog remained at her side, unwavering. Not worried. Not restless. Present. And in that presence, she felt ready. Ready to welcome what was unfolding. Ready to trust the timing. Ready to stay exactly where she was meant to be. She closed her eyes and rested her head back, letting the warmth of the room surround her. Whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. The house felt different now. Not tense. Not hurried. Just prepared. Night had settled fully outside, wrapping the neighborhood in quiet blues and soft shadows. Inside, warm lamplight filled the rooms, gentle and steady, as if the house itself understood the importance of staying calm. The woman sat on the couch, a pillow tucked behind her lower back. Her breathing had found a rhythm she recognized now, deep, measured, grounded. The dog lay close, his body aligned with hers, his head resting near her knee. Still. So very still. Another wave moved through her, clear, unmistakable, asking for her full attention. She leaned forward slightly, hands braced on her thighs, breathing through it with practiced calm. When it eased, she let out a quiet breath. "That's it," she whispered. "That's what you felt." The dog's ears flicked once, but he didn't move. He had no need to. She looked down at him with new understanding. It wasn't just that he hadn't wanted her to leave. It wasn't just instinct in the ordinary sense. He had sensed timing. The subtle changes in her body. The quiet signals before the obvious ones. The shift from ordinary to meaningful. He had noticed before there was urgency. Before there was certainty. Before she herself had been ready to accept it. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with emotion so deep it surprised her. "You didn't panic," she said softly. "You didn't make a sound." Her voice trembled slightly now. "You just stayed with me." The dog lifted his head and looked at her, eyes calm, unwavering. In that gaze, she saw it clearly. He wasn't trying to stop her out of worry. He was protecting her space. Her stillness. Her readiness. Another wave came, closer than the last. She breathed through it, slower this time, letting herself fully lean into the experience. When it passed, tears filled her eyes. Happy tears. Grateful tears. She laughed quietly through them. "I would have missed it," she whispered. "If I'd rushed out that door." She reached down and rested her forehead briefly against his head, closing her eyes. "Thank you." The dog stayed perfectly still, accepting the gratitude without expectation. That was the truth of it. His behavior wasn't dramatic. It wasn't urgent. It was thoughtful. Purposeful. Beautiful. She leaned back again, wiping her cheeks, breathing steadily. The rhythm continued, stronger now, closer together, guiding her forward. She felt ready for what came next, not because she had planned it, but because she had been allowed to arrive there gently. The dog shifted only when she did, staying close, offering presence instead of noise. In that quiet companionship, the truth settled fully into her heart. He hadn't sensed danger. He had sensed a beginning. And by refusing to let her leave, he had made sure she was exactly where she needed to be. Night had fully settled outside. The sky was a deep velvet, sprinkled with faint stars, while the house glowed softly from warm lamplight. Every shadow felt gentle, every surface familiar, every sound calm. The woman sat on the couch, hands resting lightly on her belly. The dog lay curled beside her, chest rising and falling steadily, eyes alert yet serene. They had moved together through hours of subtle signals and quiet understanding. Every wave, every flutter, every gentle insistence from him had led to this moment. Another sensation began, stronger now, unmistakable. She breathed through it, slow and steady. The dog rose beside her instantly, his body aligned with hers, grounding her in the rhythm. The world narrowed to these small, deliberate moments, her breath, his presence, the soft click of the lamp switch. She felt the first undeniable sign of life's next step. Her heart swelled not with fear, but with awe, gratitude, and warmth. She leaned back, exhaling slowly, letting the wave pass with her hands resting protectively on her belly. The dog nudged her hand with his nose, gentle and purposeful. She smiled through tears, realizing he had never left her side, not for a single moment. Minutes passed. More waves came. She felt the depth of the connection between them, the human and the dog, learning and trusting one another without words. Every subtle action he had taken, the quiet blocking of the door, the leaning into her, the gentle nudges, had prepared her. "Good boy," she whispered, pressing her forehead against his head. His tail swept softly along the floor. He didn't need praise, the act itself was reward enough. When the moment fully arrived, she was ready. Calm, centered, and deeply aware. She smiled, hands on her belly, tears sliding freely. She felt the life within respond, and she laughed softly, a warm, full sound, because she was exactly where she needed to be. The dog rested at her side, eyes half closed, breathing steady. Together, they had waited. Together, they had listened. And in the quiet of that golden night, she realized the truth. The dog's gentle insistence, his intuition, and his unwavering presence had given her more than safety. He had given her trust. He had given her time. He had given her peace. And that peace, that quiet, profound, gentle peace, was more beautiful than she could have ever imagined.